Good afternoon, everyone. It's Pastor Ted from Connect Church with today's Garage Devotional. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to start a new series today of Garage Devotionals called A Traveler's Guide for Times of Disruption. We are definitely in times of disruption. We all know that, and we need some help navigating that. There used to be, and there still are, the books you could buy called A Traveler's Guide for Europe, A Traveler's Guide for this place, that place, A Traveler's Guide for places in America. And it'd help you see the spots you need to see, to help you navigate through things that are new that you don't understand or you can't figure out. Well, we're going to give a traveler's guide for this time of disruption. I want to begin by reading a passage out of the book of Acts, chapter 16, verses 6 through 11. It begins with, "And they went through the region of Phrygia and Galatia, and having been forbidden by the Holy Spirit to speak the word in Asia, and when they had come up to Mysia, they attempted to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus did not allow them. So passing through Mysia, they went down to Troas, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man of Macedonia was standing there urging him and saying, 'Come over to Macedonia and help us.' And when Paul had seen the vision, immediately it says, we sought to go on into Macedonia, and concluding that God had called us to preach the gospel to them. So setting sail from Troas, we made a direct voyage to Samothrace, and the following day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is a leading city of the district of Macedonia, a Roman colony. We remained in this city for some days." So they were trying to go to different places to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they kept on being stopped and stopped and stopped. It was disrupting their plans. And then Jesus disrupted their plans as well by telling them not to speak here, but then the Holy Spirit gives a vision of where to go. So they go there, but when they get there, they meet a prayer group, and they join with them, and the lady who leads the prayer group gets saved, receives Jesus. And then the next day, a slave girl came who was possessed by a demonic spirit who told people's fortunes. And Paul prayed over her, and the spirit came out, and she accepted Jesus. But the problem is it made her owners mad because now they couldn't earn the money that she did for fortune telling. And so what happens, the city has this kind of riot. They grab Paul and Silas, and they put them into prison. Talking about a disruption, they were following what Jesus told them to do, and now they're in prison. Their life's disrupted. But good things come out of that. So we want to talk about how do we handle disruptions, and I want to emphasize that in the midst of disruptions, Jesus has a plan. In the midst of disruptions, Jesus is going to do incredible things. And sometimes those disruptions are given by Jesus so that he could do some incredible work not only in our lives, but in the lives that our lives touch. So the first point about how do we navigate times of disruption is to cultivate flexibility. We need to cultivate flexibility. Make flexibility one of our disciplines. We talk about spiritual disciplines a lot sometimes, and we need to understand that we need to make flexibility one of our disciplines. Make it a spiritual discipline, that we will be flexible in all circumstances and situations. We need to develop the ability to bend without breaking. We need to develop the ability to bend without breaking, or develop the ability to pivot, to change quickly when things go awry, things go different than we expected, or our lives have just been totally changed. I found that the older I get, the less flexible I am. I'm physically less flexible. I'm intellectually less flexible. My flexibility with people sometimes is not as great as or good as it used to be. I find that as we get older, we get more flexible. Those who are here listening today, and you're young, you're more flexible. But even the young need to learn better flexibility. The problem is that as we become less flexible, the chance of missing the plan of Jesus increases. The less flexible we become, it increases our chance of missing the plan of Jesus. Rigidity reduces our effectiveness and may result in the inability to see and act on new things that Jesus is doing. The Apostle Paul and his team had to be flexible to shift their plans, their thoughts on where to go and reach people. They had to be willing to shift and follow the changes that Jesus was giving them. Paul had to be open to the dream that Jesus had given him from this man from Macedonia. Jesus gives us direction, speaks into our spirits at times, gives us dreams, gives us leadings, and sometimes we don't follow them because it means too much change. We can't be afraid of change when Jesus is calling us to change, because that change he's calling us to will always bring greater things in our life. We find in the book of Acts and in the letters of Paul, of the early church, that the early church had to develop flexibility. They had to develop the ability to shift and to pivot and change in order to fulfill Jesus' mission to reach people. They were faced with many decisions. At one point they were faced, the Gentiles are being saved, and should they put on the Gentiles the same dietary and other restrictions that Jewish believers kept? And they debated about it, and they because some didn't want to change. They didn't want to give that freedom to the Gentile believers. Finally, they did. But it was a disruption that caused them to think through it and to change. Disruptions many times brings the good change that Jesus has for us. And so we want to follow Jesus. Secondly, we want to cultivate openness. Cultivate a greater openness to the leading of Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Spend more time with him to cultivate an openness that you sense the leading of Jesus, Holy Spirit, to be open and know that this is Jesus leading. Although you might not want to go that road, just follow Jesus. Cultivate a greater openness to the leading of Jesus. Cultivate an openness to new ideas and new ways of doing things. We all have the ways we like to do things, right? I have my ways I like to do things. But we need to cultivate an openness to new ideas and new ways of doing things. And in this disruption time, we're going to have to be flexible enough, and we're going to have to cultivate an openness, a great openness, in order to navigate the new things that Jesus wants to do out of this, the new norms that are to come. And if we don't develop that flexibleness, it'll begin to break us. It'll begin to wear on us. So we just need to say, Jesus, I'm going to follow you. And that's not a jest. It's hard. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to develop an openness to follow what you say, an openness to embrace new things. One way to help us do this is develop friendships with younger people. If you're older today, develop friendships with younger people. If you're a younger person today, develop friendships with older people. We need each other so that it would help each side, each age group, to become more flexible and have better understanding. So create some relationships with younger people and ask them their thoughts. Ask them what they think about the projects Jesus is putting into your mind and heart. Ask them on suggestions of ministry. Ask them on suggestions of technology. Ask each other different things. Younger people ask older people, how did you learn this? What does this mean to you? If you're a younger person, be open. If you're an older person, be open. Bottom line, here it is. Continually exercise your spirit. Continually exercise your mind. Continually to exercise your body, that you may remain flexible as you can. I need to continually do these things to remain as flexible as I can. And lastly, listen to Jesus and the Holy Spirit, for they are always bringing new revelation to us regarding life and mission and how to love others, in addition to revealing ways to fulfill the purpose of our lives and mission. So let's listen, let's open up, let's determine to become more flexible so we don't break, and so that we could see the greater things Jesus has for us. Well, that's all for today. Have a great day. We will see you next week.